I'm Liz Larson with The Art of Frosting. And so many of you have asked me for some guys' cakes. So today we're going to do a cake that has elements of lots of things we've done before, and we're going to combine them into this elk cake design. Now, for you pros out there, it's really important to be able to reuse designs, to be able to reuse elements and put them all together to make something really different. So we're going to do a couple things that we haven't seen necessarily before. I always have to add in a couple new tricks, but mostly we've done these elements before and we're going to combine them into this really interesting guy's cake. Well, if you're a girl hunter, you could use this one too. This is a lot of fun. Let's get started. I'm starting with just a green base, a light green base, and I want to create a little bit of depth of color. And what I've got here is my quick icer filled with a darker green. In fact, it's striped just a little bit. What I want to do is I want to stripe this around the bottom third. I want to stripe this around the bottom third of my cake. Just a single stripe. Next, I'm going to take my bench knife and I'm just going to keep going around until that bottom stripe blends in with the top stripe. It's going to give us a little depth of color and a little bit of an ombre effect. You're going to be taking a little bit of icing off. So blend it around and take the icing off that you no longer need. You don't want to be pushing excess icing around, and you don't want it to be too thick. But just keep coming around till you've got the blending that you want. So you want to keep your light green and your dark green, set them aside because we're going to go ahead and use those for leaves. Our next step is to make our candy melt elk. Now this can easily be done with candy melt, or you can do it in royal icing as well. So these are the ones that are done. These are just printed out off the internet. Just search for whatever animal, if it's bighorn sheep or elk or even a horse. You want to pick one out that's like 6 by 4. That'll work for your 6-inch round. It'll also work for your larger cakes too, but you may need more than one. So I picked out 2 different ones that I like. And you need to make 3 or 4 of these because they may break on you. So they're easy enough to do though. You just want to take your printout and place your parchment over. And we are basically just going to trace. I just have a bag of candy melt, or it can be royal icing as well. See, I've already got it all over my fingers. You just want to pin it down, pin your paper down so that it doesn't move on you while you're tracing. The hardest part for this really is the horns, and you're going to have to use a drop line to get them right. It's just a squeeze, kind of let it build, pull up and release. Now you're going to end up with these long skinny pieces. You're never going to keep those. You'll probably lose them, but that's okay. Okay, so you've got your horns on, and basically from here you're just going to trace the outline. It's great to use the same drop line technique. You want to let it be thick, but we're going to be filling in as well, so it doesn't need to be overly thick at this point. Once you have your outline, now you just want to fill in, and you do want your legs to be thick. See how I'm really kind of pouring it on there? It's a big, nice squeeze. Then you can come back in with just your tip here. You can come back in with just your tip here and blend a little. Once I've filled in, I'm just going to come back in with my skewer and just blend it. Make sure you don't have any bubbles and everything is nice and filled in. The last step is to cut your skewers. Cut them about 8 inches long and stick them into the candy melt while it's still soft. Now don't push too hard because you don't want it to show through on the other side. Then just come back in with a little more candy melt and cover your skewer. You want this to look good from both sides. One side is going to be nice and flat and the other side is going to be a little more 3D, which is actually okay. It looks kind of cool. You just need to decide which side you want to show. If you want your 3D side to show more, you're going to have to wait to put these skewers on till after your elk dries. Once your candy melt is nice and dry, it should separate easily from your paper. If not, you want to, there you go. If not, just pull from the bottom side up. And there you go. You've got your candy melt elk silhouette. Now we're going to have a little fun with a material that we don't use often, which is clear piping gel. I'm showing you this. It's actually Wilton brand, but you can use any brand. And you can really get this even at Walmart. Any cake decorating supply will have this. Joann's or even Michael's has this. I'm putting just a tiny bit of my green. You don't need much of this to color your piping gel. It'll hold whatever color you have. And you can see that it'll be a pretty concentrated color. But to this, I want to add just the tiniest, and I mean the tiniest bit of black. I want to deepen my green. And you can see there, it just adds the tiniest bit of color. Now it's going to look black, but it really isn't. It'll come out green. You can see where I smear it, where it has that dark, deep forest, and that's what we're looking for. So I've got my clear bag so you guys can see. You want to make sure that your piping gel is really blended so it's nice and smooth. Can be a little chunky. Then I want to add back in my dark green. And my lighter green. So you can see I've got 3 colors mixed in one bag. We're going to create our pine foliage. We've done this before. So we want it to come about half is the tallest ones down and then come back this way onto your platter and then back out this way. So you can see you've got 2 triangle shapes there. We're going to come back up the side and this is just a zigzag. And you can see my piping gel has given me a real deep color, but it also gives us a little bit of shine, which is a lot of fun. Now, I don't want to continue on because I'm worried that what'll happen is I'll end up with all one color and it'll fade as I go around. So I don't want to do that. I want to start here, come up to the exact opposite side and come again. This way I get a real diverse mix of colors all the way around my cake. We're going to come out here. Okay, come back in and go in between. And the same on the other side. That way you get a nice even blend of colors and you really only need to use one bag. While we've got our green, we want to come back in and create some of these pines here. Let's start in the middle. What we want to do here is just kind of create a base. Now these will probably be all covered with our pine cones, but we just want to create some evenness so we know what we're doing. We want these to look random, but if they're too random, it really might not look good. So let it come off the end. So you got some 3D there. Once you have your base on the bottom and the top, you can come back in and add just a few more. Now I want some of my under to show through. I don't want to cover the whole bottom, but you may want to. So just come back in and add a few more wherever you feel fit. And I really want them to stick out over the edge squeeze, pull, and release. That'll give you that nice point and 3D effect, having it come out over your edge. In between, I want to come the other direction, but much shorter, and just fill in a little bit. You can see if I turn my bag different ways, I'm going to get different colors, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. But I want to just fill in around, covering most of the base of your cake, but you don't have to cover the whole base if you don't want to. And I think I would like to leave it just a little open. Next, we're going to use the same trick with dark brown. Only this time I've lined the whole outside of the bag in the dark brown. Brown can actually be a little bit hard to get a deep color without saturating your icing. So I want to put in here some bases for some acorns. I just have a number 22 star tip, and I'm just coming in and putting in some bases for some acorns. So I'm using the same trick as I did before, and I'm coming around and doing them starting on one side and coming to the other side so I can get that diverse color mix that I want to. And on some of these I'm going to put 2 acorns, and some I'm going to put 3. Now, this is a trick that you can use if you're a pro so you don't have so many bags, or even if you're just new at home. I've squeezed out this same bag and filled it with a much lighter brown with a lot more white in it. I also have a number 12 figure piping tip. I'm just going to push in here, squeeze, let it build, and let it have a point. The more diverse, the more contrast the color is, the prettier your acorn. But you want to have a lot of diversity in color as well. So some of them are going to be a little bit monochromatic, and some of them are going to have some real contrast. I want a much higher contrast for my pine cones. So I've really coated the inside of a bag here. This is a number 124 tip. You could also do it with a number 104. But I really got a lot of my dark piping gel here. And I've got some white. It's a little bit hard to see and it'll come through, but I want my edges to be white. So what I'm looking for is a higher contrast. Now, if you guys have seen my Christmas video from last year, maybe it was the year before, you've seen me do pine cones. I've got a straw. I'm just gonna do a squeeze, let it build and release. That's the cone. And then what we wanna do is we wanna come around real tight to start with and just build these cones. So you want to make sure that they have enough flare. The pull down release is important to get that very square edge. And you just come around and make as big a pine cone as you want. Now this is a little tiny one. We could stop there, or we can keep going and make a much bigger pine cone. You can see lots of colors in there, which is exactly what we want. Once we've got our pine cone the size that we want to hold it with these 2 fingers here and cut below it. Bring our scissors up under and place. Now I want to place these close to where the pine cones are on the outer edge, but in just a little. So I flipped my tip over so that the top edge is now the dark edge and the bottom edge is now the light edge, just by flipping the tip over. So now I'm making a much bigger pine cone, and what I'm doing is I'm making bigger petals, though I don't know if you really call them petals, and I'm moving down my straw much farther. I want about a third again bigger pine cone. These are going to go in my center, and instead of laying down like the last pine cones did. These are going to stand up. Be careful with your scissors when you're pushing down in. You could cut your straw, which will make your pine cone flop over. Okay. So you can see we've created some nice height, and you really could leave it like this. This could make a really pretty Christmas cake, or just a fall cake, or just a cake for a guy who's not necessarily a hunter. You could leave it like that. I want to add just a couple of what I call Pinecone Buds. And we're basically going to make a rose on a stick, but we're going to make a more open cone. And then we're going to come around like we do a rose, but we want to make these a little more square and a lot tighter. So no flare on these, just get them in real tight. I think probably 4 of these rows are probably about right. We're going to pull that off and put them here. So you can see we can do teeny, teeny, tiny pine cones without the straw. You could attempt them, the big ones without the straw, but I don't recommend it. They probably will just flop over. So, but this works for what we call Pinecone Buds. So we really could be done here, but you guys know me. Come on, say it with me. More is more. We're going to come back in with our number 4 writing tip that we used for our pinecone foliage, and we're just going to come in and add just a little bit more foliage just at the base of these to cover our base, and we're just going to pull straight out. Now you may not need these. If you didn't end up with a base that's showing, you're fine. I want to put just a little bit in my top, just a little, not much, just to fill in between a couple of my cones here. And just to finish off, it looks just a little unfinished without it. So we're almost done. Now it's time to transfer our very delicate elk candy melts. So basically, I'm just going to push this down as gently as I can without breaking it until the skewers are in. And that's really it. Now, of course, more is more, and you could put more of these in. You could create a herd, but I kind of like just this single one. Well, this one was fun. I hope you learned some things, and I hope you learned that it's really great to combine things that we already know how to do. Now, if you're new to this and you don't know how to make a pine cone, you want to start with how to pipe a rose on a stick. So you want to check out that video first. That'll help you out a lot. If you're a pro at this, these pine cones are nothing. Pay attention to your colors though. They'll make your cake really interesting. You can see we did a lot of color layering here. So, and this elk, we've seen that before on the Cinderella cake, as well as the elegant reindeer cake. So same thing, just a different color. So I hope you guys give this a try. I can't wait to see what you do with it. You guys always amaze me when you share your work at The Art of Frosting on Facebook, where thousands of decorators just like you are sharing their work. You can find me at www.theartoffrosting.blogspot.com, where there's a full body of my work and you can look up pictures for inspiration there. Thanks again, guys, for watching. Appreciate it so much. More to come, and see y'all again real soon. Bye.